Did you see what was happening there? Did you feel it? See, I've been blessed to sit in a special seat and watch these kids grow up. And I've watched them as they've been given opportunities to lead and be in front of us and present. And what I just saw was absolute confidence in singing that song. That's a commodity that you can take anywhere you go. When you can stand up and sing in front of folk who know you, then you can take that anywhere you go, in any circumstance. And the reason I know it was okay is because, and I'm just picking her out because I can mess with her because she's the church baby. She was anyway when I got here. All of them did a great job, but she was playing while she was singing the song. And whenever you're doing that, you're in a comfortable spot. And church is supposed to be comfortable for you. You're not supposed to be afraid when you come to church to present and be your best you. I want every child to be able to experience that kind of feeling, to feel protected, to feel loved and accepted and appreciated. And even if you mess up, it's okay, because I'm in front of people who care about me, and I just move on to the next level. And too many of us leave places like this and go out into the world and don't ever shake that feeling off that if I mess up, people are going to condemn me. They're going to jump all over me. And so I'm telling you, we got to continue to foster that kind of environment for our children here, because I'm telling you, it's valuable and it'll take you anywhere you want to go. Guess what? When Jesus say yes, nobody can say no. If they could just make that their motto, it'll be great. God bless you. God bless you. I'm proud of each one of you. Each one of you. So they think it's a long way from where they're sitting right here until that ultimate place that they're going to be when they're in the community and doing a great thing. But I'm sitting here right now looking at somebody who I remember when he was a little bitty boy, and now, little bitty, I always say that, but a young lad, and now he's a doctor and a professor at Tuskegee University. Yeah, he's sitting right back there. We call him Trey. Yeah, call him Trey. Yeah. I hate to out you like that, Trey, but he ain't no new doctor. No, he's been a doctor for a little while now, and he brings back absolute wonderful things. Even though Tuskegee is 2 hours away, Trey makes sure that his work is in Birmingham, that he's still helping the folk he grew up with, and he's a part of all we do here in the city of Birmingham. He's bringing the knowledge that he acquires at Tuskegee to bear to help us solve some of the big problems we have here. And so we thank God for him being here today, him and his family. So there's a message today that I thought would be appropriate for our young folk and recognizing them today. It's so good that we're celebrating them today. And there's a famous young man in the Bible that we've talked about so often. And I don't know if we know the full extent of his story, but his story is worth celebrating. And in some respects, not all respects, but in some respects, his story is worth emulating. And that simply means following. His faith is something that we should know about, young folks should know about, because when I tell you the timeline of his life and the events, you're going to say, wow, that wasn't a long time at all. But the story comes to us out of Genesis. And if you've got your Bible, I'd like for you to turn to it. And those who are in the booth, if you'll turn to Genesis chapter 37. Chapter 37. Genesis chapter 37. And I'll tell you for point of reference, I'm also going to go to chapter 41 because I want to give you bookends on the story, all right? I want to tell you how it started, how we got to know him at the beginning, and then I want to tell you how we came to a conclusion, not the ultimate conclusion of a matter. I know it's famous last words, but I'm not going to try to be with you too long this morning. I just want to share this with you. Starting at verse 2 of chapter 37, starting at verse 2, the Bible says, this is the story of Jacob. Moses wrote this now. Moses wrote Genesis. This is the story of Jacob. And let me say this. My version of the Bible may read different than yours. I'm sure it does because I'm reading from the Message Bible. The Message Bible. So it'll read a little bit different than yours. Okay. This is the story of Jacob. The story continues with Joseph, who was, write this down, 17 years old at the time, helping out his brothers in herding the flocks. These were his half-brothers, actually, the sons of his father's wife, Bilhah and Zilpah. And Joseph brought his father bad reports on them. He was a tattletale. Yeah, he was a tattletale. And Israel, look at this, loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was the child of his old age. And he made him an elaborately embroidered coat. And when his brothers realized that their father loved him more than them, they grew to hate him. They wouldn't even speak to him. Verse 5, Joseph had a dream. Underline that. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said, listen to this dream I had. We were all out in the fields gathering bundles of wheat, and all of a sudden my bundle stood straight up, and your bundle circled around it, and look at this, bowed down to mine. And his brother said, so, that means you're going to rule over us. You're going to boss us around. And they hated him more than ever because of his dreams and the way he talked. He had another dream, and he told this one also to his brothers. I dreamed another dream. The sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed down to me. He had 11 brothers. Bowed down to me. And when he told it to his father and brothers, his father reprimanded him, fussed at him. What's with all this dreaming? Am I and your mother and your brothers all supposed to bow down to you? Now his brothers were really jealous, but his father brooded over the whole business. He pondered it, he thought it. Now let's flip to 41, chapter 41. So here we have Joseph talking about his dreams. Verse 39 of chapter 41 brings us into the story like this. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, you're the man for us. God has given you the inside story. No one is as qualified as you in experience and wisdom. From now on, listen to this, you're in charge of my affairs. All my people will report to you. Only as king will I be over you. So Pharaoh commissioned Joseph. I'm putting you in charge, look at this, of the entire country of Egypt. Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his finger and slipped it on Joseph's hand. He outfitted him in robes of the best linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He put the second in command chariot at his disposal. And as he rode, people shouted, bravo. Joseph was in charge of the entire country of Egypt. And Pharaoh told Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but no one in Egypt will make a single move without your stamp of approval. Wow, how do you go from being 17 years old, your brothers hate you, to being, watch this, 30, and being in charge of the entire country of Egypt? 13 years. Seems like a long time. 13 years is all he went through to come from being hated to being the hero of Egypt. And all of it turns on dreams. Dreams are the focal point that we have to talk about today. And so I want to talk for a little while today about don't wake me, I'm dreaming. All right? Don't wake me, I'm dreaming. 1951, Langston Hughes talked about dreams. Said, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? Since 1951, our leaders have been talking about dreams. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. He talked about the dream that he had for how the country should be. We talked about all the wishes he had for how we would get along for one another. I can tell you something, and you'll know this as we go along when we talk about who gives you a dream. This was Martin's dream. And how do I know it's Martin's dream? And how do I know it was what Martin King Jr. dreamed? One of the tests you can use to determine whether it's God's dream or your dream is whether it's come true. All right? When God gives you a dream, it's always going to come true. Every single time. And Martin's dream has yet to materialize. And so what he really gave us was an ideal of what he wanted the country to be about, an expectation of how we could live in those circumstances. But people have been dreaming. Christopher Williams in 1981, and that famous, if you don't know about it, pivotal movies that carried us from disco into hip-hop. If you don't know about that movie, then you need to go back and pull it. I don't know what medium you get it from. You might have to get a 8-track, or you might have to get a DVD, or maybe you can pull it down on Netflix or Prime. But if you've never watched New Jack City, you need to go see New Jack City. Why? It introduces us to a whole lot of the players that are still on the scene today, and they're all doing well. We consider them the fathers of the movie industry right now, but they were all just shining boys then. I'm talking about Ice-T. You know these folks. Y'all know them. Yeah, you just thought he came in on Law and Order, but a long time before Law and Order. Yeah, we saw him on that. And we talking about Wesley Snipes, who seems to always get in there some kind of way. Yeah, and that could go on and on. But one of the players who was also in the movie was a guy named Christopher Williams, and he made this one-hit wonder, because I don't know anything else he made. But he made this. The name of the song was Don't Wake Me, I'm Dreaming. And he said, if I'm dreaming, then just let me sleep. Don't wake me up till my dream is complete. Somebody heard it. Said, if I'm dreaming, just leave me alone. Turn off the lights and unplug the phone. Yeah, now we're not going to get no deeper into it. Yeah. Because he was talking about something that wasn't exactly scriptural. But he was talking about dreaming. And then, of course, we can't leave and go into this scriptural basis without talking about the prophet Biggie Smalls. Yeah. The prophet Biggie Smalls said, and he made it clear that it was all a dream. It was all a dream. And then I like what he did, because he went through and he talked about his life as it was, and he talked about the life that he wanted it to be, and then he talked about how he got there. He did some folks that he thought did him wrong. I questioned Biggie a little bit on that, because he wasn't doing right in the first place. But he talked about, I was just trying to make it. Folk were dogging me while I was trying to make it. He said, but I'm here now. And the same folk who used to dog me for doing wrong, now they dog me to get my signature. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Biggie talked about his life. And I came to tell these young folk today that you cannot make it through life without a dream. Not well. You got to have an idea of something you want to do with your life. That's the problem with a whole lot of grown folk today. They just float. Just float, don't have any end point in mind, don't know exactly what they want to do. And I'm not here to tell you today that everybody got to want to be a lawyer, a doctor, or Indian chief, but you got to have something in mind that you want to do. You got to have a fixed point. But oh, what a difference it makes when God gives you a dream. When God gives you something specific for you to do, and that's what we're talking about today. The 37th chapter of Genesis starts with the history of Joseph. And then we go through and we talk about his trials. And can I tell you this? You're going to have trials in life. Anybody that thinks that you can go on a straight line from here to your dream is absolutely wrong. I want to give you a case in point. Come walk with me, Mikael. Come on. Come walk with me. Come on. Come on, Mikael. We're going on. This is us. We're standing here. All right? Both of them have a dream. And I'm going to tell you how dreams work, okay? Because this is how life works. You see that door back there? That's your dream. Down there, that's the best thing you want for yourself. All the job you want, how you want to live. There's a wife down there for you. There's a husband down there for you, right? You see him? You see him? No, he's taller than that. You don't see him? You don't? Keep looking. He's down. Well, maybe he need to come through the door, but I mean, he's down now, I promise you. You see your girl? I've got sunshine. You don't see her down there? She's cute, man. She's real cute. Yeah, okay. Well, this is how, now you got to get to her, and you got to get to him. Let me tell you how this works. But you got to go down this aisle. Only problem is to get from here to there. The problem is there's a lot, come on. There's a lot of detours. Oh, look at that. There's Chancellor. So you take a detour down that way. Yeah. And look at that. Oh, I'm going to work with Deacon Hall for a little while. So you take a detour down that way. And you go all the way down there and you stand with him, and then you got to come back and get back on the pathway. Come on back now. You got to get back on the pathway to your dream, and then you step right here. And, oh, look at that. There is CJ. Look at that. This is how life is. We're working and walking toward our dream, but on the way there are detours. Every step of the way, there's something that can draw us. And guess what? You might get down there and sit by Deja for 10 years while you're still working on your dream. The dream is still down there, but you just got to get back on track so you can go to your dream. And look, let's walk on down there. Let's say 10, 20, 30, 40. You can be days, months, weeks. It can be years, but folks still working toward their dream. Turn around. Now the question is, where are you in your dream walk? I'm asking you that. I'm asking you that because I'm showing them that it's very easy to get distracted in their dream walk. It's very easy to get pulled off track from what they're trying to do. And look, that's not to say the things that you detour to are bad. They may be good. You may enjoy them. In fact, you may detour down that road and stay there and love it. But it doesn't mean you're following your dream. Come on, let's go back up here so I can finish talking about dreams. So here we have Joseph, who's been given this dream, a funny dream. He says that at some point in my future, my brothers are going to bow down to me. God gave him that. At some point in my future, my mother and father and my brothers are going to bow down to me. And he has the problem that he tells people about his dream. All right? First thing I want to tell you is this, and walk with me on this. Do not confuse a dream with a desire. Don't. All right? And I'm going to give you what I think is a simple definition. The dream from the Bible standpoint that Joseph is talking about, a dream starts with God and is given to you. A desire starts with you and is given to God. All right? A dream starts with God, and he gives that to you. But a desire starts with you, and you give that to God. You see the difference? Because when God gives you a dream and tells you to go to it, he's going to equip you with everything you need to get to that dream that he's given you. Now, does that mean he's going to block any and everything from happening to you? No. You know why? Because all of it is for your good. All of it is preparing you for ultimately receiving the dream that God has for you. Let me see if I can break it down a little bit. Immediately after Joseph tells his brothers about his dream, they hate him. They already didn't like him. All right? And maybe some of that was founded and maybe some of it wasn't, but they just didn't like him because his daddy showed favoritism to him. He was spoiled. He was spoiled. Some might say he was spoiled rotten. All right? Because not only was he spoiled, he knew it and he flaunted it in front of his brothers, so much so that he knew he was his daddy's favorite. And whenever his brothers were doing wrong, whenever they should have been feeding the herd, they were all lollygagging around, and he would go tell dad on them. Nobody likes that. But that's what he had to deal with. And so after they realized that daddy loved him more, they conspired to get rid of him. They conspired to get rid of him. You can go through the Bible, case after case, where people are in a favored spot according to what God says, and then people try to get rid of them. All right? But in this instance, his brothers, I think, now y'all can join me on this one, they went too far. They went too far. They actually took him and sold him into slavery. First, they put him in a pit. They put him in a pit and left him there and went back and told daddy that they were out hunting and a wolf or dangerous beast came and killed him. They even put some blood on his favorite little clothes and took it to the daddy to make it seem like he was dead. So, of course, his daddy is sick because his favorite youngest son is now dead. So they're lying to cover up what they've done. But in reality, Joseph wasn't dead. He was just left in the pit. And along come some slave traders, and they get him out of the pit, and now he's in slavery. So he goes from being the favorite son to being a slave. And then he goes towards Egypt, and the slave traders sell him to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar is in charge of the jail. And because Joseph is a pretty good worker, he realizes that Joseph can help him manage his house. So he becomes, again, the favorite. Look, because he's got God's favor on him. When you got God's favor on you, it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to still work according to God's favor. You can be in your daddy's house, or you can be in the prison system or wherever, you're going to still do your best wherever you go. And I'm here to tell you, no matter what circumstances you find yourself in, always do your best. Always use what God has given you, because we say all the time, and we say it flippantly, that your gift will bear you out. And it's true that whatever God has given you to use it in whatever circumstance. It may not be the best circumstances you can find, but if it's what you're doing, do it to your best. Potiphar left him in charge of his house, and he was devoted to Potiphar. But Potiphar's wife was a real housewife of Egypt. All right? She was in the original cast. And she was showing up the truth. And she here, look at this pattern now, she lied on him. She lied on him, and he got in trouble with Mr. Potiphar. And so because of that, instead of being in charge of Mr. Potiphar's house, he's in prison. Puts him in jail, which was a blessing because really he was supposed to kill him based on what his wife said. But he put him in jail. But guess what? When you got God's favor on you, you use what God has given you no matter where you are. So whether you're in daddy's house, you do your best. Whether you are in Potiphar's house, you do your best. When you're in prison, you do your best. And so he's in prison, and everybody likes him in prison because he's a likable guy. And they find out that the dream that he had in his daddy's house, they haven't stopped. And not only does he have the ability to dream, but he knows how God has given him the ability to determine what dreams mean. And he started talking to folk. People come to him and say, man, you know, last night I dreamed such and such. And he would say, man, that means you don't need to eat ice cream before you go to bed at night, all right? That's a crazy dream. It don't mean nothing. All right, be careful with that. But then he came and he predicted correctly what two people's dreams were. He just didn't know that those two people were pivotal in Pharaoh's house. One was the chef, one was the baker, and the other worked in Pharaoh's court. And so when they got out, they started talking to folk about this guy who was in jail. Guess who they were talking about? Joseph. Pharaoh started having dreams, and nobody in his court could determine what was going on with the dreams. And his baker heard about it, so he says, "Sire, there's a boy in jail who knows how to interpret dreams. Keep doing what God lets you do, and somebody will take you where you need to go." So they pull him out of jail, and he tells Pharaoh what the dream means. And Pharaoh takes him out of jail and makes him the number 2 person in the country because he trusts him. So look, this is 13 years later. He has gone from being, approximately 13 years later, he's gone from being in his daddy's house to now being in Pharaoh's house. And it's all because he's floating and following a dream. Now look, I told you earlier that a dream starts with God and is given to you. So it doesn't matter if you go in a pit, it doesn't matter if you go in Potiphar's house, it doesn't matter if you go in prison, it doesn't matter if you go in the palace. Either way it goes, God is taking care of you. You simply have to keep on doing what God tells you to do. The problem is when it's your dream, when it's your desire. And when it's your desire, because you don't have God backing you, you'll do whatever you need to do in order to make that dream come true, which means you'll lie, you'll cheat. Why? Because I'm trying to make my dream come true. You'll do things that aren't necessarily right. Why? Because I'm trying to make my dream come true. You'll do things that are low down. Why? Because you'll step over people, you'll treat them wrong, and you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of that because God will take care of you if you're simply following what he wants you to do. So where's the problem? The problem is when I want to do something and God's not showing favor on that. Then I need to realize that I'm not working in the area that God wants me to work in. I need to understand that. Sometimes we want to be a movie star. But God doesn't want us to be a movie star. God wants you to be able to bless his kingdom in some other kind of way than being a movie star. And you'll tear up every relationship you have just trying to be the movie star. You can run from it all you want, but God will tell you that that's not what I want you to do. Hey, you got to use what you got. So look at this. So Joseph had the dream. Let me tell you the problem we got. God didn't give him the interpretation of his first dream. He let him walk into it. And why doesn't God give us the interpretation of our dream initially sometimes? And the reason is because we can't handle the facts that come behind it. If God said, ultimately, Joseph, you're going to be number 2 in the kingdom. But in order to be number 2, I need you to know what it feels like to be rejected by folk. I need you to know what it feels like to be a slave for a little while. I need you to know what it feels like because you're going to be over slaves. And I need you to treat them with compassion. Yeah, you're going to be over the jail. So I need you to know what it feels like to be in prison and take care of folk who have done wrong. But if I tell you that on the front end, who wants to go through that on the front end of their life? But because he was able to go through those experiences, he's a much more compassionate representative of God, and that's why the kingdom is blessed, because God has his man in place. Many times God won't give you the interpretation of the dream he has for your life. He simply protects you as you go through. Look at this now. Joseph went through a whole lot, but nothing ever really hurt him. Nothing ever really hurt him. Oh, he was in some inconvenient places. He was in some awful situations, but God kept him in every circumstance until he got him in the place that he wanted him to be. God dropped dreams in his heart, and it's only God who can bring that dream to a reality. So look at this. You need to learn how to surround yourself when you're struggling with what's my dream? What does God want me to have? First of all, you need to put people around you who have a spirit of discernment. So when you start talking about what's going on, first of all, make sure you're talking to the right people. See, his big problem was he told the wrong folk about his dream. He told his brothers already hated him. Why are you going to share your desires and dreams with folk who already don't like you? Because all they're going to do is look for circumstances to trip you up, slow you down, and keep you from getting there. But there were people who always looked out for him. Look, Mr. Potiphar looked out for him. Even though he had him put in jail, he could have had him killed. But he cared about him. The baker, the chef, they looked out for him. When he told them what he could do, they put him in the best situation so that he could be all that Joseph was meant to be. Learn how to talk to people who also talk to God, because God sends people along the way to help you get to the place he ultimately wants you to be. Some people keep trying to be the star when God just wants you to be the star maker. He wants you to support the stars that are coming. He doesn't want you in front of the camera. He wants you behind the camera. He wants you in the booking agency. He wants you in the public relations office. You keep trying to be out front. You're still in the process. But God doesn't want you to be the one actually out front, and everybody out here want to be out front. There's a whole lot of heat out front, and it takes something special to be the one in front of the camera. Look at this. So don't confuse a dream with a desire, and everybody's got a desire. I bet if I ask everybody in here if you had a dream or have a dream for your life, everybody in here would raise their hand. And some of you would raise your hand even if you can't tell me what it is. Even at this point in your life, you still don't know what your dream is for your life. Some of us are still using the same, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to be. Some people are still doing that. And at this point in your life, how many of y'all know that rich is overrated? Raise your hand. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, seriously, money is important to an extent, but money can cause a multitude of problems, and it can cover a multitude of sins. All right? If you don't know what to do with money, then money will tear you up. All right? It's never been the Bible saying that money was evil. Remember this now. People go all long way with this. The Bible does not say that money is evil. It does not. Money is purposeful in its place. The pursuit of money. The pursuit of money is evil. It's the pursuit of money that'll mess you up. It's the pursuit of money that'll make you mistreat folk. That's the problem. You got to be careful with that. So don't confuse a dream with a desire. Nobody in here, if I said, what's your dream? I want to be the brokest man in town. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to say that. We all know that at a certain level we want to be comfortable and be able to take care of our family and be able to deal with the issues of life. But how many of us have, if in our dream, our personal dream for our life, is I want to be known as the person who's the most helpful in my community? How many of us have that as a dream in our lives? How many of us have as a dream in our lives that I want to be said that anybody I met that had a need, I met it, if I could? How many of us want that in our lives for ourselves? How many of us grew up wanting that? I'm not talking about your old sanctified, mature self now. I'm talking about the one that was you when you came out of high school, when you had your dream, the one who was sitting in the place like these young folk right here. They want the same thing you want. They want the glitz and the glamour and all that stuff, and they don't realize that without a good foundation and without God allowing them to do it, it can cause problems. The second thing I want you to know is everybody can't handle or understand a God-given dream. Everybody can't handle it. Everybody can't handle it, and they can't understand it. You know why? Because we keep trying to make them understand spiritual matters, and they're not spiritual. They're not spiritual. We keep talking to them. The only way you can digest it is in the way you live. And if you don't live spiritually, then you're going to digest that dream in the flesh. And the flesh and the spirit they don't compute. People don't understand. Why in the world would you want to help all them folk? Why you want to give what God gave you to everybody else? Amen. That's what they say, because that's not of the flesh. The flesh is get all you can and can all you get. And then sit on the can. That's right. That's exactly what the fleshly determination is. All right? They don't understand when you say, if the more I can give and support other folk, the more God's going to bless me. They don't understand that because that's a spiritual concept. The spiritual concept. After Joseph received his dream and told his brothers and his fathers, guess what? Things seemed to start going downhill for him. But can I tell you this? They seemed to go downhill. That was the trajectory of his life. But as he was going downhill, what he didn't realize is it was preparing the speed for him to shoot up. They didn't understand that. It looked like he was going down. But when you get to the bottom of every valley, you need to look up because there's always a peak. The mountain is there. All you need to do is start climbing. And God will take care of him. That's what he did. He took care of him. There's a lot of different responses that can come along when we share our dreams with people. People can be jealous. Look, his daddy reprimanded him. Your folks might not even understand your dream. Your folks might understand what it is you have been given by God to do. He was hated. They were jealous. And all of this stuff came from his family. We didn't even get outside the house. Reprimanded, jealousy, hatred, before he even left the house. So look at this. You cannot concentrate on your problems because we all have them. And I'm just talking about the problems that are external. I'm not even talking about the internal problems like your sense of worth. You know, why is God doing this for me? Am I good enough? Do I look good enough? Am I smart enough? All these things when we bring self-doubt in. Can I tell you that even if you don't have to be the smartest to be used by God. You don't have to be the best to be used by God. When God wants to use you, he's going to equip you, and you already have enough because you have God. And God plus any situation equals a satisfactory conclusion. The last thing I want to tell you, the next thing I want to tell you is a God-given dream will bring God glory and maybe you too. You don't hear me here. A God-given dream will bring God glory and maybe you too. All right? Because we got it the other way around. We think that when God gives us a dream, it's to bring us glory. But no, when God gives you a dream, you are an instrument to bring him glory. That's the primary consideration. And oh, by the way, in addition to bringing him glory, you also might get some shine out of it. But when your goal is for you to get shine, that's a problem. Let me see if I can give you this one. All right? No institution survives without a vision. Not one. There's not one. Soon after completion of Disney World, someone said, when they created the theme park, one of the workers there said, it's too bad that Walt Disney didn't live to see this. And one of the creative directors turned to him and said, he did see it. That's why we're here now. If he hadn't seen it, we wouldn't have anything to work from. So what I'm here to tell you is even though Walt didn't live to go through it and be a part of what was going on, and he couldn't imagine all that Disney has become, God gave him a vision to make it happen. And he made it happen. What you have to do for God may not bring you to shine in the flesh in your lifetime. You may not get the direct benefit of it, but guess what? God still gets the glory from what has been done if you simply follow the dream. And I know Walt Disney was Jewish. I get that. I'm not saying he was used specifically by God. It's an example. Disney World is not known as the bastion of Christianity. What I came to tell you is that sometimes wonderful things can happen because you follow a vision. And you follow the vision, and because you followed it, good things can happen even if you don't get the benefit of it. The dream that God gave Joseph kept going, and guess what? We're still benefiting from the dream that God gave Joseph today. Today, that's how far it's gone. When most people would have given up after they were put in the prison, they would have given up and said, I'm through with this. They could have gone a different way. But Joseph was used, look, don't miss this. You think that Joseph was put in place just so his family could bow down to him and he could be second in charge. That's not true. Joseph was put in place so that deliverance can be brought to God's people. That was the primary purpose of raising Joseph up in Pharaoh's court, for the deliverance of God's people. And he put him in place. Joseph's dream caused the leaders of the nation of Egypt to realize, look at this, that there was a true and living God who was able to do great things, and Joseph was his representative. That's why he was put in place. That's why the dream was made true. And the last thing, and I'm out of here, there is no doubt when a God-given dream comes true. None. There's no question when a God-given dream comes true. You don't have to guess, did God do this? And the reason is because when God gives you a dream, included in the dream are some supernatural things. In other words, they would not be able to happen by any fleshly means, by any means of your own. When God gives you a dream, it couldn't happen except God do it. And when you look back at it, you realize, can't nobody do me like the Lord. Couldn't nobody have done this but the Lord. You couldn't even draw the dots and get it together. It was only God that brought us to this place and brought us this way. So on your way to having your dream fulfilled, you might go to the pit, you might go to the prison, you may end up in the palace, just like Joseph did, but in the end, you're going to realize that can't nobody do me like the Lord. And I wonder how many times Joseph thought that his dream would never be fulfilled. How many times? No matter what it is that God has in store for you, if you're obedient to him and you follow his command, then you can be surrounded by haters, you can be in holes, you can be in horrible situations, but you're still going to make it all the way. Look at this. Can you see this scene? And I'm out of here. Joseph had gone through a whole lot of back and forth with his brothers when he realized that they had come to Egypt and they didn't know who he was. So he had gotten all buff and he was living real good. They were still living down there, scratching out a living. And they came to Egypt because there was a famine in the land. And they didn't realize that God had long since solved the issue of the famine. And they didn't realize that the sins they had done were going to come back to haunt them. They didn't realize that. Well, Joseph, while he was out there doing his daily task as the vice president, we'll say, of Egypt, doing his task, he sees a group of people and they look familiar. I know them folk. He realizes those are my brothers. Now look, it didn't matter that he had been in prison. It didn't matter that he had been in the pit. It didn't matter that they tried to kill him. Suddenly, he wasn't second in command of Egypt. He was a brother who just missed his family. And he sees them coming, but he doesn't know how to contain himself. You got to go back and read this story, because the Bible says that he is so overcome with emotion that he can't control himself. Why? Because all that God has done for him suddenly comes back to his remembrance. Can I tell you, when you realize how good God has been to you, you might not be able to share it with anybody right away because he's been so good. You remember the movie, The Pursuit of Happiness? You remember the last scene when Will has just been told that you're going to be hired, that you're going to be the one we bring on, and you're going to be a stockbroker. It didn't matter that he had slept in his car with his child. It didn't matter all the negative stuff that had happened. He's walking down the street, and there are thousands of people walking around him, and he can't share the moment with anybody. He's just screaming to himself how good God has been to him. And I'm here to tell you right now, if you follow what God tells you to do, if you keep yourself on the track, you may go down the pathway wrong way sometimes. You may go down the wrong way, but if you come back and get in line and follow God's command, I'm here to tell you, dreams do come true. And God will bless you. Now, I came to tell you today, I want you to help these young folk in every way you can. You too can be a dream maker for them. You can support them in every way possible. All the good resources that God has blessed you with, you utilize them to help these young folk get where they're supposed to be. Because some of them don't have the resources that they need. We can help them. We didn't have what we needed at one point. Yeah, we needed to find a way to get back in good graces with the Lord. And there was nothing we could find down here on earth that could help us get in good graces with the Lord. And guess what happened? Him being the loving God that he is, instead of making us continue to scrounge around and find bullets and turtle doves to try to get back in good graces with him, he gave us what we needed. Why? Because he loved us that much. And so because God loved us and gave all that he had, he provided a great example to me and you. All that we have should be used to help those who do not have. He gave us Jesus Christ, and Jesus died for us. If you've never given yourself to him, if you've never accepted his gift of salvation, I extend that opportunity to you while the young folk stand to sing a song. The doors of our church are wide open. Whosoever will, let them come right now.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you, Lord, today.
What happened?
Because you care for me
In such a special way.
in such a special way.
Yeah.
That's why I praise you.
Yeah.